are reduced to antagonists in someone else's story. They are cast as terrorists and security threats, nothing more. Yet, today, for all the cruelest reasons, Palestinians have come into the world's field of vision with sharper focus. And 3/4 of a century since the Palestinian-Israeli conflict began, millions around the world are getting their first glimpse at what it means to be a Palestinian today. In the wake of the war in Gaza, many of us have seen our social media landscapes redrawn. The colorful feeds on our phones have given way to monochrome, white shrouds, gray rubble, and black and white screens warning of sensitive content ahead. I sometimes hesitate to reveal what is behind the warning screen, because after more than 140 days of war, I know what awaits. A harrowing snapshot of life and death in what has become the most miserable place on earth. Babies covered in searing burns, children with bloody bandages where limbs should be, mothers peeling back shrouds to kiss angelic faces goodbye. Scrolling through these images of a merciless war, I find myself thinking, it can't get any worse. And then, it does. The bar for humanity keeps falling to new lows. Actions that were once unthinkable are now commonplace. Hospitals under fire, houses of worship destroyed, civilians killed with white flags in hand. How can we possibly make sense of that? The fact is, when one side of a conflict has been robbed of the right to tell its story, we're left with an incomplete narrative. The current iteration opens like this. The war began on October 7th. To be sure, the brutal October 7th attack opened a new and devastating chapter in the saga. But the larger story has been unfolding for more than most of our lives. 75 years in which Palestinians have not known a single day of genuine peace. Acts of war are not always as clear-cut as an airstrike, an ambush, or an abduction. Sometimes, violence takes the form of a crippling 17-year blockade, as decades of almost daily deaths. It appears as checkpoints, a separation wall, armed settler violence, detentions without charge, and the indignities, the endless indignities of life under occupation. At The Hague last month, while presenting Israel's defense against the charge of genocide, a member of its legal team argued that the historical context of the conflict was irrelevant, because for him, October 7th was context enough. That's the trouble with so-called cycles of violence. No one can agree on where to start the story. Each side instinctively centers the suffering of their own people and minimizes the other. A posture enabled by digital echo chambers that reassure us that our opinion is the only credible one. The historical story of Israel centered on World War II, the Holocaust, and the Jewish people's desire for a homeland. Yet, this account has overshadowed the Palestinian story, the Balfour Declaration, the ethnic cleansing of the Nakba, and the decades of displacement, dispossession, and illegal military occupation that have followed and continue to this day. The echo chambers in our minds are hardwired to dismiss anything that doesn't confirm our convictions. Yet the war in Gaza, live streamed to the world, has brought into full view the power imbalance that has dictated the story of this conflict. Many in the West have been left with an uneasy sense that the Palestinian issue isn't as black and white as they have been led to believe, that they didn't have the whole story. It's uncomfortable to challenge long-held beliefs, but beyond the comfort zone of the familiar lies the opportunity to understand, connect, and grow. One can acknowledge that for many, Israel's founding countered a historical injustice, while recognizes that it created another that has yet to be resolved. You can condemn the killing of Israeli civilians while affirming that absolutely nothing could ever justify the annihilation